I'm Belisle. This is Max, and I wanted to show you how these sculptures that I call cent shards are made. First, we start with a clay body for the mold because we have to have something to do the press mold on. And this is a Longhorn white clay, and this is a 25-pound bag. It fires to cone 05, which is an earthenware fire. And this is only going to be the mold part. This is when we are doing a new face from a sculpture garden or an old cemetery. And we always use white clay because it doesn't leave a red residue on the stone that we're making the impression from. So I'm going to cut a slab about 1/2 inch deep by the width and the depth of the clay. And now we'll go outside and find an object to make our mold from. Normally I'd probably be in an old graveyard or in a sculpture garden taking these, but for the purposes of this demonstration I'm using the statue of the Lady of Guadalupe that I have in a fountain here. And what I'm going to do is take the clay that we've cut and press it onto the face or whatever portion of the sculpture that I want to mold. So I'm going to kind of wrap it around here and then hold it and press it. It's really important, if you want to get the details, to be careful and slow with this part. If you have an object that is deeply undercut, for example, if the chin goes way under and is not terribly flat, you're going to have a problem getting the mold off. So it's just a trial and error situation. So we're going to press until we feel that we've gotten the whole face, including the details, molded. And now we'll come back to this in about 3 minutes when it's had a chance to set up a little bit. Okay, it's been not quite 3 minutes, but I think you can see how the impression has taken in here. I'm going to check it for details, and it looks like it is fairly smooth. And the only thing you need to be careful of is when the mold is this wet, you need to put it in a place where it will get some support. I usually just put crumpled newspaper or something else. Normally I'm in a travel situation when I do this, so I take a clay box with crumpled newspaper and just lay it in. And this will need to dry for about probably 2 days before it's ready to fire. Now we're back in the studio. This is not the same mold that I just took, but I wanted to show you the process with a mold that I'd made previously. This one did come from a gravestone in Castroville, Texas. And you can see that it's been fired. It's very hard as a flower pot. It's been earthenware fired, and it's difficult to tell what it is just yet. But when I take a slab of clay, and generally you take the slab and make it about the same size as the mold itself was. You need to flatten it out and stretch it a bit, and you do that just by throwing it against your clay board like this. And it is dusty. And this stretches it and also gets the air out. Watch out for your clay cutter. Then you just take the slab and look at the mold and decide which part you want. Sometimes I take the whole face, sometimes I take half the face. I think for this particular demonstration I'm going to take half the face, or perhaps about 2/3. So I'm going to lay it into the mold and press it in, not trying to be perfect, but trying to get the features as smooth as possible. Now you'll notice I'm not worrying about the edges because they will become part of the design when I start to add the embellishments. So I'm pressing in. Because the mold has been fired, it is very dry, and the moisture in the clay absorbs into the sides of the mold, which makes it fairly easy to remove almost as soon as you've pressed it. So that looks pretty good. And now when you take it out, the trick is sort of to fold it in half a little bit so that the sides come out evenly. It's not going to be perfect, but you don't want it to be perfect really. This is an impression and not a perfect replica. So when it comes out, you can see that you have the features well defined, you have some texture there of the clay itself, and now it's time to start doing the fun part, which is the embellishment. Okay, now that I've got the molded face on my clay board, I'm going to look at it and kind of decide what I want to do with it. And I think this part down here I'll use a stamp on. That will come last. This part up here is a little heavy, so I'm going to cut it off with my clay needle. I don't use many tools at all when I do this. And this is going to turn into a coil. Rolling coils is fun. You probably did this when you were in school and making clay snakes. Notice that you roll from the inside out. And try to keep it as even as possible. The mesh right here is for texture later on. I'm not using it right now. And then a good thing to do once you get a coil about the length that you want, of course, is to wet it so it'll stick better. A piece this size you don't really need to slip and score, and then you can just apply it kind of in a freehand manner, following the lines or not following the lines of your face. And sometimes you can put little curls and things on. I kind of like an Art Nouveau look when I do this. And then I'll probably take another look at that. I may finish it off with, obviously I'm going to do some more work to it, and you will get a chance to see the finished molded face. But I'll put a few more embellishments on to show you how I work. This is a little series of clay balls pressed in here. And if you've done any hand building, you know there are a lot of little tricks that you can use to make embellishments on your work. And here where these meet, I might want to smooth them out. One thing you don't want to do is to make it slimy with water. That is never attractive. I might use my clay needle to add a few little indentations, or even some little score marks here. And I have some stamps that are carved, and I might even want to put a stamp on the face. Make sure you've thought this out, because if you don't like it, there's no way to really undo it. So that's the process of getting started on it, and I would probably continue working on this for the next 20 or 30 minutes, getting it just right, and then as it sets up to be leather hard, I turn it over and sign it, and then put it aside to be fired. And that again would take about 2 days for it to be dry enough to be fired. And this also is fired to a cone 05. This particular clay body is Longhorn Red, and I'll show you the firing process later.